everybody, my name is Hester Lowell, and welcome to 600 Seconds. On today's episode, we're steering in a different direction. The current buzzing question is whether or not To Kill a Mockingbird is an American classic. Though it has served a popular purpose throughout the years in American school systems, most people strongly disagree that the title carries it. It is truly appropriate to be read and analyzed in schools. Conducting the case is our field journalist, Amanda Smith, and you will witness series of interviews, opinions, and more. And in the field to our journalist, Amanda.
It's not like I started doing this out of nowhere. This was staring at me for a while, and it's needed to be done. Growing up, this book was a strong influence in my life. It was one of the first books I truly understood, and the characters go through the cycles of emotions. It was one of the first books I could truly understand. The characters go through the cycle of emotions for and with them. So when I heard that people were truly questioning whether To Kill a Mockingbird was a true American classic, I wanted to know how local people felt about this before hitting the internet with their opinion. As someone who took interest upon this book recently, how do you feel about the way it's being treated now?
When I was first given the book, I expected to fly through it, read it, and move on. All of that changed the second I hit the second chapter. I soon began to feel myself become emotionally connected with the characters and knew from there on this book would change the perspectives I had. I really can't see why people would feel so strongly about the fact that this is an American classic. I truly believe it is.
So tell me, why do you think it's an American classic?
For a person my age, it shows that even though times were a lot different back then, there were still good people in the world who didn't care about the color of someone's skin. They just wanted to do something good for the world.
As a freshman who's never enjoyed reading, how did you feel about the book?
As someone who usually does not like to read, I felt like the book was really intriguing. The first few chapters of the introduction of the book, they were kind of okay, you know what I'm saying? They were okay. But then as you started getting reading into the trial and things that are more interesting, it really hooked you onto the book and made you want to read more.
I knew hitting the high school and the middle school crowd would be a good decision, but maybe I could do even better. I knew I could talk to someone who had more of a passion for reading than everyday English and honors English kids. So that's what I did. I found someone who incorporates reading into their everyday life, and that's where I'm off to now.
Hi! Welcome! I'm in the middle of an investigation right now, and I just felt like you're the right person to talk to about this. If you haven't heard recently, To Kill a Mockingbird is slowly being pushed out of school systems. And I really just wanted to get it from a professional's point of view on what you think about this.
As a high school teacher, it does really hurt me because I know that it's getting lots of repercussions and negative feedback from it, but I have such a connection with this book that when I first became a teacher, I was given that book to give to my class, and they were an unruly class, and I just kind of assumed, okay, they'd skim through it, they'd kind of get the gist of it, and they'd just throw it to the side, but it made an impact on them, and it changed them, and it opened their eyes to a different perspective, and just from there I knew that this book was special. I knew that it could change perspectives, and I think it's really unfair that people are just kind of jumping to conclusions with it.
Since you have such a strong and deep connection with the book, do you think that the reason they're pushing it out of school systems is because that the race relations in the book compared to the ones that are going on today?
As I've grown, I just seen how society has changed, and I've changed with it myself. And a lot of the events in the book with the fictional characters are based off of events that happened during that time when the book was written and when the book was based. But I feel like we've grown and we've changed. And because of this, I just feel like kids are smarter now to know that this book should be taken in a different way besides going around and using racial slurs and being mean to people who are different than you. And I just feel like taking the book out of the school system completely is a dumb decision. There's no other words to use for it. So I feel like the race relations really shouldn't matter as much as teaching the kids the greater lesson to the book than what most people assume is what they're getting from it.
What are the implications in the book? Do you think the reasons why the book is being phased out from schools is because of the use of the N-word?
Though I do enjoy the book and I can defend this book a lot, it's just I feel like maybe it wouldn't be suitable for younger audiences, especially with the use of that word.
Now we're going to go around the streets and see if we can find anyone to ask a few questions. I think there's someone right over here. Excuse me, can I take a moment at a time to ask a few questions? Have you ever heard of To Kill a Mockingbird? Oh. Hi, can I take a minute of your time to ask you a couple questions? Have you ever heard of the book To Kill a Mockingbird?
Yes.
How do you feel about the book?
I feel that the book is a very good book for educating teens and young adults on the racial relations that happened in the 1930s.
How do you feel about the race relations and use of profanity in the book?
I feel like for the time being, it is very accurate to how the events really were, thus making the use of that language proper.
How do you feel about youth reading the book? Do there certain age range you believe should read it?
Speaking of the fact that Scout is 6 when the book first starts, I feel like the young adult, mid-teens should read the book. I don't believe that people as young as Scout should be reading the book, just because of how times are now and the things that have changed, but I feel like teens need educated on that type of time era.
Do you believe that it would impact that youth range that you just said?
I feel like it truly would, just due to the fact that the characters are so in-depth and just all the events leading up to the trial just would really have an impact on today's youth.
How do you feel about the relations between Atticus and his children? Do you think that that's still how families are today?
I feel like it all depends, just like in the book how no one else was as close to their children as Atticus was with his. I mean, I feel that some families have those connections, but most do not.
The book was based in the South, where there were still slaves who just became to get free. How do you feel about Calpurnia and her situation in the book?
I feel almost as if she was looked at as more of a family member than a slave by Atticus and the children. Some of the other family members, like their aunt, didn't seem to think that way, but when it came down to it, the fact that Atticus trusted Calpurnia to take the children to church, and when Scout wanted to go to her house, how he didn't straight up say no, I feel like she was looked at as more of a family member, mostly based on the fact that her family had worked for them for so long, and she kind of grew up with the Finches.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I find myself researching late at night, trying to figure out what else I could do to make this interview perfect. I had enough material from students, teachers, random people on the street.
Thank you, Amanda, for the information. Thank you also to our audience who tune in every day to watch our program. I'd also like to thank our producers who helped put together 600 Seconds. See you later, everyone. Hester Wold.
The call and the